Oh, by the way, Brad, remember, we're gonna let Mary Rose speak.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to give some ground rules in the beginning.
Okay.
All right, everyone, good morning.
Good morning. Morning.
This is our Curry County Board of Commissioners meeting, and before we get started, I just want to cover a couple of ground rules. First, I'll let you know that Commissioner Herzog will not be here today. He and his family have suffered a tragedy in their family, and they are dealing with it. He and his family are certainly in my prayers right now. So he is he is dealing with that, and it's a very difficult issue that they're going through right now. So it's just us today. I want to cover a couple of ground rules. The way that I run the meeting is if you'd like to speak today, please fill out a public speaking request, which some of you have. Each of you will get 3 minutes. However, there is the first person we're going to call, who is Mary Rowe. Mary has made previous arrangements through Director of Operations Fitzgerald to have some extra time today, so we are going to allot that time through a pre-designated arrangement. I'd ask everybody to be respectful today, and we try to be as efficient as we can in our meetings. So I really appreciate everyone coming today. It's kind of nice to be here in Brookings, and I appreciate the city of Brookings accommodating us the way they are. It's good to see everyone. So let's get the meeting started with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So first up, amendment and approval of the agenda.
I'll move. Well, I'd like to take one out of the consent agenda and move it down to discussion action items.
Okay, is that in?
Yeah. Item N,
Okay.
we could make it B on discussion action items,
So 5B,
5B.
okay. We got a couple good things on that consent agenda. We have, we're approving the work to be done on the Veterans Building. That's something that's been kind of let go, so it's good to see that that's going to get done.
Yeah. Well, I'll move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
All right, I'll second. All in favor? Yes. All right, now we'll move on to public comments. Mary Rowe is first.
Great. I am Mary Rowe. Thank you, County Council Fitzgerald, for letting me give the 2 public comments that I had intended to deliver at the August 30th workshops, but could not, as a commissioner called me the evening before the workshops to tell me that citizens would not be allowed to speak, even though he did allow citizens to speak. My 2 comments, one for each of the 2 workshops held on August 30th, are 3 minutes each for a total of 6 minutes. First one, Curry County camping ordinance, times allowed for tents to be up. I am speaking today as an MSW who has experience working with and advocating for homeless people. I just gave you printed information from Lincoln County Commissioner Claire Hall. There are advantages as well as disadvantages to specifying actual times, consistent times, and uniform times throughout Curry County for the setting up and taking down of tents. Uniform times would be easier to understand, but they need to allow people at least 8 hours of sleep, and they must be in compliance with state statute ORS 195.500, which requires that the times be humane. Not allowing people at least 8 hours to rest and get warm within their tents will cause an exhaustion level that will not allow them to function well enough to take care of themselves and improve their lives. Especially for the frail, it will cause illness and risk many people's lives. It will increase the likelihood of more homeless women having to provide sex, to be sexually exploited, and risk becoming pregnant and or contracting life-threatening sexually transmitted diseases just to stay warm. And by the way, a study done by the U.S. Marine Corps found that women need about 30% more clothing to stay as warm as men. Rapes will be more likely to increase as many women stay with hosts in order to stay warm without consenting to sex, but are then raped right here in our county. Studies show that this systemic, institutionalized oppression will reduce the self-esteem of many homeless people, which contributes to more mental health problems, substance abuse, self-harm, suicide, and the infliction of harm on others, especially on other homeless people. This will increase the cost of law enforcement and create a greater need for more services. Please respond to your own resolution 2022-20, August 18th, 2022, which declares that we are in a state of emergency in Curry County due to lack of housing by amending your ordinance 23-03 with humane and reasonable times for tents to be used, especially during the winter. Second comment, cold weather emergency shelter. Allowing cold weather emergency shelter is a sensible response to your own resolution 2022-20, which declares that we are in a state of emergency due to lack of housing. I have shelter experience and hope that the following comments help. Criteria must be agreed upon that are not unnecessarily prohibitive, but that do help to ensure the safety of staff, volunteers, those receiving shelter, and the community. To deny shelter to those who are unhoused would be to treat them as second-class citizens and to risk their lives. About 15 years ago, Our Daily Bread set up a winter shelter at the Del Norte Fairgrounds. When interviewed about it, I told the Triplicate newspaper that there were not enough volunteers. And indeed, a few weeks later, a homeless man was killed in the parking lot. Accordingly, I want to stress that there should not be any shelter formed without sufficiently qualified and experienced staff, as well as suitably trained volunteers. And there should not be any such shelter in any jurisdiction that does not have 24/7 law enforcement, unless those running the shelter pay for an officer to be present at night. Given how quickly our ambulances arrive, I hope that no cost-prohibitive special arrangements will be required, but I do think that there should always be at least one paid staff member present at a shelter, and that staff member should be certified in first aid. Surely an inspection for fire safety should occur before the shelter is open. Shower availability, clean clothes and bedding, respectful and private inspections of backpacks for weapons and illegal and banned drugs, and a policy regarding weapon storage need to be determined and arranged before opening. An area for animals needs to be set up with carriers. Screening at a separate location would be advantageous. and a decision must be made about whether to screen for those with violent conviction records. Shelter hours that have worked well are 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. Transportation from any cities in Curry County that will not have shelters to a city that does needs to be arranged. The Curry Public Transit does not always run when the weather is bad. A hot meal and hot beverages that do not contain caffeine should be provided. I was disappointed at the review meeting about last winter's shelters held by Wild Rivers Foundation, which Ted also attended, to learn how poorly the Gold Beach shelter had been managed. That cannot ever happen again, as it is not acceptable to remove people from danger and then expose them to other dangers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
All right, still under agenda item 5.3, public comments. Mark St. James is next.
Thank you, Mark St. James. I live in Harbor, Oregon. I appreciate you guys starting these meetings here once a month. I'm going to speak on, as a registered nurse, still registered nurse, and a trauma nurse in the emergency room for 30 plus years, Navy corpsman. I want to talk on being proactive ahead of this probably pandemic coming up again, to put out an ordinance against the COVID vaccines and the masks being required. There's a new study that came out September 5th, even by Fauci, that said masks, N95s, are not even making much of a difference in reducing COVID virus. Myself, my wife is an ICU nurse, all of us staff, when we work, have to put on an N95, 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large, put a hood over us, and they instill a fine mist, not even as fine as a virus, but if we can smell it, our masks are not fitted right. Now everybody else in the public is wearing masks that aren't even N95s or N100s, and they're not fitted right. The masks in this study do not filter out a virus, an N95. They're made to filter out a large bacteria. So I'm going to hand this to Vice Chair. On the other thing, I sent you 3 commissioners a copy of my letter on getting proactive. I'll read it. It's just a virus is a common cold. Most flus are viruses. And this time of the year now, when school started, our schools, colleges, and universities start again. You're going to see an uptick in flu and colds. But this COVID swab that goes around, mind you, it just tests for a virus. It doesn't distinguish between what kind of virus. A virus could be a cold or a flu, and that is going to uptick the numbers. And I'm asking you, as our commissioners, to work on drafting an ordinance. I'm told Coos County commissioners did an ordinance last week against this. They're being proactive ahead of this. Not only that, other counties in Oregon have already done it. Texas has done it. Florida has done it statewide. So, and again, 3 years ago, Baker City Mayor Carrie McQuiston and her county commissioners did this. 3 years ago, it made national news. I'm not saying that adults constitutionally should have their own choice, not mandated by tyranny rules by our governor or the federal government. If you want to wear a mask, you want to take the COVID vaccination that's going to come out again with no testing, that's people's choices. But again, please consider drafting an ordinance, borrow the wheel from the states or the other counties that have already done it. And Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and I did get your email, and we also did receive Commissioner Taylor from Coos County's, I think it was a resolution they did.
Yeah, rebuking.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, still under agenda item number 3, public comments, is Tina Lyon.
Okay. So, Brad, I think I sent you the Taxpayer Association of Oregon information. My talk today is on the homeless. So I talked with, at the city council, and I know you guys are separate, city, county, but here you are in the city. And so we all work together with this situation. And my point is you can't keep giving. You build it and they will come. And I don't know if you guys have done your due diligence, and I'm sure you have, because I came from California, and most of you probably have also. So, the Taxpayer Association of Oregon, Multnomah County, for instance, has given out 22,000 new tents, 60,000, 69,000 free tarps. Some neighbors have complained of having brand new tents still in their box dumped on their front yard. Portland has defunded the police by 100 positions and then created a street response task force to send social workers to handle calls previously responded by police. These city workers hand out free clothes, cigarettes to the homeless. The county annually gives out 5.5 million free needles and has budgeted 55,000 crack pipes and 90,000 crack foils, as well as free chapsticks and free straws. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Homeless can use food stamps to buy almost everything: junk food, Oreos, pork rinds, as well as steak and lobster. Multnomah gave out 500 cash-loaded debit cards free to the homeless to spend whatever they wish. Portland helped lower the price of marijuana by giving millions of tax dollars exclusively to local pot shops as economic stimulus funds. So, I mean, if we can't learn from what's going on in California, Oregon, and I know it's separate, but you guys, we talk, okay? You guys have to talk with the city. That's my request. Please talk with them, let them know that these things are real, they happen, we don't want them here. And if we keep giving out free stuff, they will keep coming. And it's not because we don't have provisions for them. We got lots of stuff. We got drugs for them. So of course they'll come. I mean, look at San Francisco. Look at all those places. And what that does to our home value, it devalues it. I bought a brand new home. I don't want it devalued down to half its value because they're going to come. Someday I may want to sell it. So maybe the assessor can come and give me a new price for the taxes I pay, because if it's going to go to stuff like this, that's kind of ridiculous. Plus, it's going to devalue my home. So you want our tax dollars to take care of our county. Let's take care of our county. Not let's take care of everybody else coming in that wants free stuff. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Either that or take my taxes down to a very minimal, which is what happened in California with mine. They took our taxes down because we had a landslide. So they took it down. So that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. All right, still under agenda item 3 is public comments. Gordon Clay, you're next.
For the record, my name is Gordon Clay from Brookings, Oregon. Trigger warning. I'm going to talk about suicide. If it's too much for you, take care of yourself and leave the room. In 1995, I converted an RV into a bookmobile holding over 1,000 books on men's issues and spent 4.5 years traveling 30,000 miles through 26 states, visiting towns and too small to have a bookstore or a library. I talked with hundreds of farmers and dairymen, truckers and mechanics, and they talked to me about suicide, but they couldn't do it because of their responsibility to their families. I would often ask if they owned a gun. I estimate about 70% said yes. I then asked how many of them got it for protecting their household, and that number went down to about 40%. Then I said, do they keep it loaded? That number dropped to about 30%. And then I asked, have you ever had to use it to stop a home invasion? That number to date has been 0. I would often, gun manufacturers have done a really good job of creating a scenario to sell more guns, and the trade-off is that nationally 58% of men and 33% of women who died by suicide used a firearm. In Curry County in 2021, 72% of our deaths were by handgun. 50% of them were women. That matches the raw number of women who died by firearm in Washington County, a county of over 600,000 people. And a very sad statistic is that 78% of youth who die by suicide using a firearm found it in their home. I've distributed this brochure. People who love guns, love you. It's in a number of places here in Curry County. Research shows that 95% of adults would do something if someone close to them was thinking about suicide, if only they knew what to do. The answer to that concern, I've distributed thousands of these brochures, the Are You OK brochure, and I've got them at 175 locations, in retail locations in Curry County. The last time I was up at the commissioner's office, that brochure's been up there for over 6 months. Only 2 have been taken. The information, and the 175 locations you can find is zeroattempts.org/partners.html. The information has been out there for years, about 80, but that 95% have to be willing to pick up a brochure and learn what to do. Otherwise, the hard fact is that they continue to choose to remain willingly ignorant. Lowering the high suicide rate for Curry County requires citizens to become informed. I've done my part. It's up to Curry County citizens to do yours. Get a brochure and read it. And for a limited time, this Life is Better with You here, hot sleeve, is available at most, when you get a hot drink, at most hot coffee places in Curry County. And this bar coaster, Life is Better with You here, is available at most bars and restaurants with bars in Curry County for a limited time, as soon as 10,000 of them run out. And the good thing about this, on the back, it tells people what they want to know. Trust the signs, trust your gut, start a conversation, ask, are you okay? Listen, encourage action, and stay in touch. The 4 things to do with anybody to keep them from dying by suicide. You guys, you citizens of Curry County have got it together, get it together to lower our suicide rate. We're still number 1 in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. All right, still under public comments. Next is Connie Hunter.
Sorry.
Good morning. It was nice not having to drive to Gold Beach today, although I love that drive. So thank you for the opportunity to have this day in this place, in this meeting. I wanted to talk about opioid overdose prevention month. Tough subject, especially today. Supreme Court Justice Carlos Muñoz signed a proclamation stating September 2023 shall be known within the state court system as a month of awareness, training, and action regarding opioids, stimulants, and substance use disorder treatment and recovery. Lived experience. I was written opioid prescriptions for 10 years. I fought hard to not be given those prescriptions and an alternative way to treat my pain. I had a C5, C6 fusion in my neck and a brain injury that I was recovering from. So, a number of years ago, the VA cut everybody's opioids, pardon me, all veterans' opioids in half without tapering. The result was 15 veterans came forward and said, we can't do this. It's not working. We're not okay. At that time, VA offered temporarily, and just to cover this piece of the puzzle, they provided whole health staff. But that went away once they had completed their effort to taper those opioids. But we were able at that time to create a relationship for a palliative care provider, which the VA did not have. They were just cutting people off and not looking at the palliative care side of things, so we got that done. So when the state of Oregon decided that they were going to do the Oregon opioid tapering guidelines, I applied to be on that task force, and I was accepted. It was a very long process. I'll make sure that you get copies of this. I think I have actually sent digital copies to you. So I just wanted to, again, reinforce that working with the state and participating with the state get some things done. And the first thing that I said, and I'll never forget it because I was scared with all of the amazing resumes in that room, in that task force, was I was written a prescription. It was wonderful for taking care of my pain, but I was ill-advised about the chemical dependency that came with it. Do not tell me I have an addiction when I have a chemical dependency and I'm fighting to not be on that medication. There's no alternative services. We've come a long way with whole health. Peer support specialists are key in the process of rolling out support as we deal with addiction in our own communities. I will be talking with the vice president of the college and the dean of Curry campus about the kinds of trainings that can be offered through workforce development at the college. And as I navigate this and share more with you and with other community partners, I hope we can come to a really good effort to handle the problem that we're facing now and the problems that could be worse in the future. And we know HBOT can be a part of that, especially with this efficacy for SUD. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Connie. All right, so while we're still under public comments, that's the last request I have to speak, but I do have a question for the audience here, and I'm going to ask for a little audience participation, if you will. One of the things that's important to Commissioner Trost and I is that we are listening to the people of this county. We're listening to what all of you want and need. We have been discussing moving the times of our public meetings around to be more accommodating to those folks who work, those folks who have busy days throughout the day. So just on a show of hands is all I'm asking. Would it be more advantageous to have our meetings in the evening or at this time during the day? So if you think it would be more advantageous to have our meetings in the evening, raise your hand. Awesome.
So it looks like we keep the same time.
All right, I'm continuing this survey. Val, I didn't see you raise your right arm. What's going on? I'm continuing kind of a survey process through social media, and we're certainly going to modify whatever we need to do to meet the needs of the public, but I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to agenda item 4 is consent agenda. So again, we got some really good things on there. That Veterans Building, that's big to me. We discussed that in our budget committee meetings on how to do that. We've been able to fund that.
I'd also like to point out that, given our recent cyber situation, hiring a county IT director who is very knowledgeable about our county systems and was vital in the re-implementation of the new infrastructure. Phil Dixon is
Yes.
going to be a giant asset to the county.
And he'll be coordinating with our association with Lane Council of Governments so that we can tap them for the expertise that we need for all the, the various, it's a big project, and Phil he really stepped up and was a leader throughout all that. So lucky we had him. Anyway, I think that's a big move for the county.
Yeah, a lot of lessons learned there. I mean, we have a policy now that's been updated. It's more consistent with cybersecurity measures throughout the state. And we have a mechanism in place to move our cybersecurity forward and keep it current with the demands. As everybody knows, it's ever changing. And I think we're going to see more outsourcing to meet the needs of the specialty needs that we have here in Curry County. So,
Well, just looking at some of these higher orders, it's just a lot of talent. Deputy Treasurer Nick Vecino.
yeah, that's a good one.
Former U.S. Bank bank manager, and a lot of talent. Addie Pittman coming back to the VSO.
Coming back, it's good to have her back.
I think this is really good thing. So
Yep.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
And I will second it. All in favor? Yes?
Yes.
All right, now moving forward to discussion action items. First is to approve MOU with City of Brookings, and that's regarding building services, and I think Garrett's here to give us a hand with that. Garrett, you want to step on up?
So, part of the problem with the MOU that was in place was it was running off of old numbers that were used when that MOU was a IGA when I worked at the City of Brookings. And that was designed to cover my costs and to not make, any profit off of our sister agency or the county. And I proposed to do the same thing in this new revised version, merely cover costs. Right now, we've been running at a slight deficit. With everything going on, we haven't tried to tackle getting this passed, but now it seems like a good time that we have a little bit of breathing room after the computers are back and everything. So going from the previous $55 an hour for inspection or plan review time up to $65 is covering costs. It's my time, my bill out rate plus the vehicle usage, that kind of thing. A couple other things that were added in there. One, the language of the old MOU said that it was just a flat hourly rate. I propose a change to say the entirety of the plan review fee. Since I'm doing all the work, we should get that fee at minimum, but at least up to that dollar amount. So. Because some of the smaller jobs, might go over what they've brought in, but some of the larger jobs, we might not collect everything that they've collected for that service. And that is just until the city building official gets his commercial certifications. And then, of course, we're just on an as-needed basis. One of the other things I did was clean up the services section of that contract to represent everything that I can potentially do for the city, which is basically everything I do but building official services. Since they have their own building official, I wasn't going to step on his toes by recommending that, of course. But all other inspection and plan review services I can do as a backup.
Good question.
Yep.
Have you been in communication with City of Brookings when drafting this?
No,
Okay. So this, they have not seen this.
they have not seen this.
And then, my other question would be, what mechanism do you plan to use to actually track and calculate your hours?
So far, we've just been documenting what, the amount of time each inspection or plan review takes. When I do the city's work, I try to just do that and concentrate until the plan review is done, or typically I don't bill them for drive time. Oftentimes, when I'm doing an inspection for them, it is in conjunction with other, county inspections, so I'm not starting my time at the county facilities and driving down here. It's usually from the time I hit Brookings city limit signs and, to that inspection. So I've been trying to be generous with that as much as can be done.
Well, just to get clarification, like I know on a lot of different MOUs or IGAs, we have some opportunity pre-draft approval for the other entity to review and kind of get back feedback. A lot of times there's might be a piece of language or something that they wanted to add in there that
Okay.
may not be in there. Is that
I,
historically what we've done?
yeah, normally that's, the way we would handle that. I generally like to make sure that we're all on the same page before we bring this stuff forward. So let me just run it, talk to those guys, and then we'll, Garrett's been clear about what his goal is, so let me go.
Yeah, it appears more than fair.
Right.
Like, it's not, there's nothing, like,
I know, I just don't want to I don't want to have you guys already have taken action if we need to have some, rebuttal.
Yeah, I do think it's important to get input from the people that are involved in the issue. But what I do appreciate, Garrett, is we have a lot of MOUs and we have a lot of policies that need to be updated.
yeah.
And I appreciate you being proactive with this, absolutely.
Yeah,
But I do think their input would be, I'd like to have it.
I think this is a good example also of this is what he's bringing to us is what, there's a lot of this around where we've just been kind of, the momentum of no change has been,
Yeah.
and then that drags us down. In fact, I was approached by the Wild Rivers Animal Shelter about wanting to take a look at their fees, so I'm gonna be looking at that as well, because that's been, I think it was last done in 2015 or something like that, and so we'll be looking at those charges. But this is we need as our department heads to be clear about what our costs are and bring that to us, because that's our job, is to make sure that we're not, I mean, I love the people of Brookings, but I'm actually a resident of Carpenterville, so I feel like people of Brookings should pay their own way.
I agree, getting feedback from the city would be a good idea. Building permit's not in any big rush to have this passed. I was just in a big rush to get it done so that it's one less thing on my plate, so.
It's also not like Garrett doesn't have, he's got plenty to do. So
Yep.
I'm glad he was able to bring this forward, because he's a real busy guy lately.
Yeah.
So I think what we could probably plan to do is get this looked at and
Fantastic.
try to get it approved by the next meeting.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right, thank you, guys.
Appreciate you, Garrett.
thanks.
Thanks, Garrett.
All right, so we'll move forward to 5B, which is the agenda item we pulled. And, go ahead, Jay, read them out.
So this is the approval of the Constitution Week resolution that was brought forward to us by the Daughters of American Revolution, the Cape Sebastian chapter. And present is Debbie Whitlock Roush, Becky Ross and Isabel Buck. And would one of you like to come up and speak about this resolution?
Hi, I'm Debbie Roush, and I live half the year in Gold Beach, and I'm working on making it full-time. I'm an associate member of the Cape Sebastian chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. The United States Constitution, America's most important document, stands as a testament to the tenacity of Americans throughout history to maintain their liberties, freedoms, and inalienable rights. And Constitution Week is celebrated annually during the week of September 17th to the 23rd to commemorate its history, importance, and bring attention to how it still serves us today. This celebration of the Constitution was started by the Daughters of the American Revolution in 1955. DAR petitioned Congress to set aside September 17th through 23rd annually to be dedicated for the observance of Constitution Week. The resolution was later adopted by the U.S. Congress and signed into public law on August 2nd, 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. The DAR also erected a structure that is built in tribute to the Constitution of the United States, the DAR Constitution Hall, which is Performing Arts Center, opened in 1929. Now, the aims of Constitution Week are to emphasize the citizens' responsibilities for protecting and defending the Constitution, inform people that the Constitution is the basis for America's great heritage and the foundation for our way of life, and encourage the study of the historical events which led to the framing of the Constitution in September of 1787. What we do often is we will have a Bells Across America, which I'm hoping to do next year with our area, and just bring the Constitution back to the minds of the people and to the teachings of the young people. In Gold Beach, the city has issued a proclamation for Constitution Week. We are getting bookmarks that have a picture of the signing of the Constitution and a little bit of information on the Constitution for every social studies student in junior and senior year at Gold Beach High School. And I've got coloring pages for the younger ones in the hopes that the teachers can start getting them used to the word Constitution and what it is and how we should learn for it. And we appreciate the County Commission making a resolution for Constitution Week. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ted, would you mind reading that?
I've got it. In the matter of a resolution proclaiming September 17th to the 23rd as Constitution Week, whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law, and whereas September 17th, 2023 marks the 236th anniversary of a framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is appropriate to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas the United States of America designates September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week, now therefore it is hereby resolved that September 17th through 23rd is proclaimed as Constitution Week, and we ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties. Dated this 6th day of September, 2023, Board of Curry County Commissioners.
All right, any more discussion on that?
Yeah, so it's interesting, so when I received this, my first intuition was, we only get a week?
I know.
Right?
I know, right?
This should be like, we need a decade of this right now. It's one of the most, intelligent and forward-thinking documents ever drafted, crafted, etched in our I mean, in part, in humanity, that, I mean, it's, and it feels like, and I don't think I'm probably alone in this, that it's been under pretty severe attack recently.
I had not noticed.
Not recently. Yes, not recently, very and, we, that document, serves us well in every capacity, and, we need to, remind ourselves to let it serve us going forward and respect that. It's interesting, so I'm gonna share a little story. I don't do story time very often. But
Actually, he does, but go ahead.
it's not true. But, you know, when I first was appointed into this position, you know, obviously you take your oath and everything. And I was sitting in the office and I was like looking around and, you know, this isn't for the lighthearted, right? And so I knew that in order to be productive, I needed to have continual reminders of why I come to work, why I do this. So I decided to put some stuff in my office to remind me of those things. And so there were things around Curry County that what I'm trying to preserve, right? The way of life that we have, that I'm working to try to preserve, that we're trying to preserve. You know, and it's hunting and fishing and the ports and you know, our livelihoods. And then I had thought to myself, how? So then I put behind the wall, behind me, is the how. And it's the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. And so that way, it's, if you ever get into, you know, remind me for when I get stuck, the how is right there, you know. And so what I'd also implore is that I'm going to work to get this onto our next school board. And so I would like if you guys could attend as well, but with an additional whereas we will focus dedicated instruction time district-wide to the knowledge imparted by the Constitution. So,
Is it possible to have a month?
it's anything's possible.
Seriously, we have a month for so many other things.
COVID proved that anything is possible. So, yeah, you know, I think we need to, yes, so thank you for also reminding everybody about this, even though it's only one week, you know, yes.
I don't think, I mean, I don't know how you set the curriculum in the schools or if the school board has say about that, but I do know that, I mean, even when I went to Brookings Harbor High School, we had sort of what passed for the remainder of a civics class, but we actually never studied the Constitution. And then when you go to law school and you take constitutional law, you don't read the Constitution, you read cases that are used to modify it. And that's how, so you just read all the way around it. And I kind of think that, you know, it would be really great if we had an old style civics approach to talking about why it was formed.
And I think that we need to start younger
Yeah.
than just when you get civics in high school.
And regarding the Constitution, you know, when we take the responsibility of these positions, we take an oath. And I also believe in symbols, and I took the oath that I signed when I raised my hand and swore to it, and I made a copy of that. I put it in a frame. It hangs by the door that I walk in and out of every day when I leave my house to remind me that I swore to that. And that's a symbol that's always been important to me, and it's something I will always fight to defend. And I really appreciate the fact that Jay is fighting so hard and fighting to get that into our schools, because I always wonder, who's gonna fight our next wars, you know?
Well, and why?
Exactly. And that seems to just get lost, so appreciate you guys and appreciate that there is a continued fight to not forget the value and importance of that, so, thank you. All right. So we're gonna move forward in the agenda to number 6, which is elected official updates. I don't see any elected officials here, although I feel like Rabia should get an opportunity to speak right now, since she does so much of our work, and she's hiding in the back corner.
Critiquing our every move.
She will. She'll give me a really critical debrief on my performance later, I'm sure, which I always appreciate. So, hearing none, we'll move forward to commissioner updates. Jay, you want to go first today?
Sure, so this is not, I just wanted to touch on some of the things that I actually, just been weighing heavy on me, a lot of this stuff that's been going on. And the Coos County resolution proclamation, rebuking forced mandates, be it distancing, vaccine, or mask, or otherwise. You know, it kind of got me back to the Constitution, right? And getting to the root of all of this is identifying what government's role, government's intended role, because I think it has evolved over decades. And I just want to speak on behalf for myself, and the way I view, and I'm a novice in all of this, but my gut in this is that government's role has superseded its intended bounds in many facets, and I believe that the initial and intended role was to provide protection and preservation for the ability for you to have your rights, liberty, and the right to happiness. Right? How you achieve that is your independence, is your freedom. And when government decides to start making decisions to care, not give you the ability to care for yourself, but take care of you, that's different than protection and the ability to actually find your liberty, happiness, purpose, intent in life. In fact, in some respects, it's the antithesis to that, because then you start fulfilling government's purpose by them taking care of you, if that makes sense. And I just was reminded of this over and over and over, and I was trying to boil it down to its particulars. And I think that's where we have to be very careful. We get requests all the time to supersede our bounds of providing protection and the ability for your rights to be preserved, our rights to be preserved, and go forward with actually putting in legislation to care that uses your tax dollars to care for individuals as opposed to a community, and allowing the foundation of the community the ability to then, for a person to take that to care for themselves. And so I can ramble on, but it'd been pretty weighty lately, so I just wanted to get that out and off my chest. And then in other news, so I attended our AOCC meeting, so that's the Association of O&C Counties, which is our timber lawsuit funds that have not been coming, been in replacement with PILT funds, which is a fraction of the actual amount. So quick little brief on this. It's one of the greatest agreements that actually preserves our resources in a way that isn't, when it was in action for 50 years, was the model for how to sustainably manage your local resources, which for us was timber, is timber. It has a statement in there that says sustainable yield, right? So right now in the O&C counties, which is comprised of many counties, fractions of counties, right now the identified amount of sustainable yield timber is 1.2 billion board feet. Now, the agreement.
That's the amount that could be
Sustainably used.
harvested every year.
Annually.
Right.
And the original 1936 agreement on this afforded, the counties would receive 75% of those timber receipts, and the federal government would receive 25% for managing those O&C lands. And like I said, for 50 years, it was a fantastic setup, and we had less catastrophes. We were doing the right things. We were managing the land. In the mid-'80s, they were doing such a good job that, objectively, that the counties realized that, hey, we'll give you an additional 25%. This was informal, gifted, as opposed to in law, to the BLM to enhance their management budget, because they were running completely off of the 25%. But then all we know what happened in the late 80s, early 90s, with several different pieces of legislation, they cut back on all of that. Now, sustainable yield means you're harvesting these trees every 20 to 30 years, which doesn't provide for essentially old growth in its definition. That all went away, and dried up to where now there's 250 million. This was celebrated by the federal government that they had harvested 250 million board feet out of the 1.2 billion available. So why this is so important to us and why is it so important to the community is because right now we're receiving essentially 1/5 of our total expected timber revenues. If sustainably yield, we provide a better foundation for protecting and preserving our rights for their citizens while keeping tax bases lower. And so, so here's where it stands. In 2019, we went to court and we won. However, the BLM did not change their policies after we won, which is interesting because anytime an environmental group wins, they change them the very next day. We lost, or we won that, and then in 2020, on the last day to appeal, they appealed. And it went to an appellate court, and we lost that appellate court 2-1. So now we are appealing it, which we figured was going to end up being the way anyways, to the Supreme Court for a final ruling, which we feel very favorable will happen in our benefit. So that's where we are right now on the O&C timberlands. It's moving into the Supreme Court. We have retained one of the most successful natural land use attorneys, who has more wins at the Supreme Court level than any other. So we are very hopeful that we can get that back, and hopefully back sooner rather than later. So just an update on where we are with that. That's all I got.
Well, I gotta tell you, man, it's really nice to, have somebody I'm working with and Jay that we are on the same page, that there's strength in that, you know? And everything you just said, I stand behind 100%. I support everything you just said, and it's very powerful, so I appreciate that. I'm gonna talk a little bit about two things today. The first thing I'm gonna talk about is Second Amendment. And I'm going to talk about that because, you know, Gordon Clay, I appreciate and respect his comments about suicide awareness, suicide prevention, 100% understand where he's coming from and support suicide awareness for sure. But he said, one of the things he said was he'd never met anybody that had ever had to use a firearm to protect himself from a home invasion. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I have had to use a firearm on more than one occasions to protect myself and other people, and I thank God that I had it. I thank God that I had the training that came with it, and I thank God for the ability to protect and defend myself and other people. So I will never lose sight of that and the value and importance of that.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead.
Because that really hit me too, and I'm gonna take a reverse angle. The fact that he says he has not means that the Second Amendment works. Because that means that people aren't willing to go do that, knowing that you may have that ability, right? I mean, when that ability is removed, those numbers jump. And so that statement said to me that the ability to protect yourself is also preventing issues from occurring. So, anyways.
So with that right comes a responsibility, and the responsibility is to train with that. So when I ran for office and I talked to the people of this county, one of the things that was really, really important to them was to have a facility to train at, a gun range. So I just want to give a little bit of update on something that we have been working and focusing on, which is our fire training facility. That's north of Gold Beach, so Central County, just a little bit north of Central County. That fire training facility, it's going to be amazing, and it's going to really have an impact on our fire preparedness here in this county and provide a great resource when it comes to our public safety. But that will also have a gun range. And there is actually a gun range there now. It has been fashioned and put in. It's not open to the public yet. There's still a lot of work that's got to be done on it. But there will be rooms to train in. There will be rooms to teach classes in. There will be rooms to educate our youth in. That is coming. And there is also a young entrepreneur that I have been in communication with regularly. He plans on putting an indoor range in there. So those things are coming. And like I said, we did a walkthrough a month or so ago, and the range is, there's a functioning gun range there. Like I said, not open to the public yet, but it is coming. And hopefully by next summer, we'll start to get access to and start to see access to that.
They did hold a 4-H gun safety and
Yeah.
target training there that every kid that attended said was, I mean, I talked to several kids and it was awesome to bring that back to 4-H.
Yep. So you're going to see more of that, and we certainly support everything associated with that. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is wind energy. So we have discussed that before. We have taken a stance that we do not support what is being proposed and being really essentially rammed down our throat. We would like to have a lot more say in that. And I attended a workshop last night here at the City of Brookings, and one of the items of discussion was that right now BOEM has a public comment period that's open, I think it's August 18th. The city of Brookings is considering doing a proclamation on their stance, which it appeared, just based on the input I heard last night, that they don't support. I haven't talked to anybody that supports it, to be honest with you. And
Well, the developers,
the developers do. The developers do. I had an interesting conversation with one of the developers. They came and gave us their, well, they gave me their speech, and at the end, I asked them, you know, I had a conversation with my neighbor about this, and he said, what value does this bring me? And I asked him, what do I tell him? And they didn't have an answer. So that spoke volumes to me. Anyway,
Well, can I, because they met with all of us separately, this organization. The organization's name is RWS. And so I had a similar conversation, and I'm, you know, pretty straight shooter like you. So I said, look, here's the deal. You're coming here, let's not beat around the bush. You're coming here because you see a potential profit. We live here because we love it. So you're going to have to show, you don't have to convince me of anything. You have to convince our citizens that what they're going to gain is going to outweigh what they're going to lose. And if you can do that, then you have a shot. So I said, that's really what it boils down to.
yeah. So we have until August 18th to prepare a document to send to them, which would be our public comment on our stance. And I would recommend that stance be that we do not support it. However, if they are going to ram it down our throat and they are going to force us to put it in, then I want to make them pay us to do that.
did they bring any more specifics about the mechanics of it? How do you
No.
do it?
No,
Because it ain't gonna work.
no.
But, Pacific Ocean here we're talking about, and,
Well, on the scale that they're doing it, or planning to do this, it's never been done.
Nope.
It is an experiment. The deep water attachments are pretty experimental. These structures stand 987 feet tall with 100-foot fan. So, you know, the potential obviously is going to be in the deep water channel, a lot of it, right? So you're going to have issue there. And then, yeah, but your point, so how to bring this public up, right? So the state has the beach out to 3 miles. They're superseding state by going into federal waters, which is outside of that 3-mile mark. That's why essentially BOEM is working directly with these vendors and not the states or the counties. Now, they have to bring that power to shore. So that's what you're alluding to is you gotta bring it to shore, you're gonna bring it to our shore, we're going to make sure that the citizens receive something.
That's right.
but we won't be getting any jobs. I mean,
No.
for structures that size, you
Well-
couldn't service them out of any of our ports. The closest you could get is Eureka or
Coos
Coos
Bay.
Bay. And so, you know, this is just gonna be like
Yeah.
you know, it's like essentially like an oil pump sitting out in the middle of somebody's pasture, and, that's it.
Yeah, so.
So let's put something together and
Okay.
let's reach out to the cities, look at what their language is, let's put something together, and so we have a unified voice. And I think, Rabia, I think we have till the 18th on that, but it might, and let's get that done so we can get it approved. And
Val, can you get this out to all the fishermen? If it's not already?
It's already out there.
Okay.
all right, that's all I had. Ted, do you have anything?
I do not. I can't think of anything specific. We're, that pretty much covered everything.
Natasha?
No, sir.
No?
No.
Okay. All right. Then we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We really appreciate your attendance.